Be so much strife, so much sadness, cutting my heart like a knife. What could be the remedy for our global malady?
Vous me dites quand vous êtes prêts, c'est super. Allez, c'est parti. Bien, retour pour cette nouveau temps fort, qui est une conférence internationale sur l'hôtellerie haut de gamme et luxe en montagne.
Okay, we're back for an introductory pitch. Eco-responsibility, immersive experiences, co-working. Hotel establishments now are multiplying services and diversifying their horizons to better respond to the changes in behavior and in consumption of their clientele. In reality, contrary to what we might imagine, the health crisis did not create any major trends. It actually revealed and boosted certain trends that already existed. We consider that what were simple, weak signals are now becoming significant trends. The first lockdown, depending on the topic, whether it's digital or others, actually boosted maturity in these topics linked to eco-responsibility or others. Without a surprise, one of the phenomena that we've seen is the level of demands of the clientele and the attention to details. And it's particularly true in high-end accommodations and luxury accommodations. To talk about these topics, I'm happy to welcome Laurent Chelle, who's the co-founder of Friendly Hotel Collection, and Eric Dardé, who's the CEO of the BEAUMIER Group. Thank you, and have a seat. The first question, Laurent, for the public, can you introduce the Friendly Hotel Collection Group and its philosophy? Well, thank you. Friendly Hotel Collection is a small group. I think we're brand new. We arrived in 2019 with a takeover of a very emblematic hotel in Flaine, an iconic hotel called the Totem Hotel in Flaine. It was very well anchored in its resort, and the renovation was done by the Cibrier Group, who are famous for their projects in Megève, in the Caribbean, or even in the Luberon area in Provence. With my partner, in 2019, we observed we're both passionate about the mountains. I come from a hotel background. He comes from a hotel background, and I come from the resorts, ski resorts. We observed that things have changed in urban hotels. In city hotels, we can talk about Mama Shelter, large chains that have emerged and changed the situation in urban hotels. They're very well anchored in their neighborhoods and in the local life around them. And this, we felt, didn't exist in the mountains, because the mountains in recent years were structured more into kind of hybrid types of hotels. And a structuring towards luxury hotels, because hotels were looking for better margins. So there was space for a new hotel product, but also well anchored locally and still accessible in terms of an offer. Eric Dardé, can you also present your group? Maybe some of you know it under another name, the BEAUMIER Group, because a few months ago you rebranded, and they used to be called the Hôtel en Haut, and now it's called the BEAUMIER Group. Could you tell us a bit more about your group? Well, we are vacation hotels, holiday hotels, where we promise our customers that we'll create a natural environment. We're in the mountains, at the seaside, in the countryside, and you open your window and you always have something beautiful to look at. So we started in the mountains, in the Alps, and this passion for creating holiday locations was developed. We went down to the French Riviera and we went to the Luberon in Provence, and we really wanted to help people discover new territories. And so now we've gone to Switzerland, to the Swiss Alps in the mountains. And we will continue to go to magical places where people really want to go on holiday in the summer and the winter. In Spain, for example, we're a small hotel group, and the heart of what we're doing is to really come back to essential things, what people are really looking for today. When they go on vacation, people want to spend lovely moments with their family in magical places where they discover the local region. Just like you, it's important to have hotels that respect the environment, where people will have experiences, local experiences, to help them discover our regions. So it's been about a year now that we've changed our name. We now call ourselves BEAUMIER. We have 11 hotels and more to come. So according to you, what are the expectations of the clientele in this era, which is post-crisis, but still with COVID? In other words, with health constraints that are constantly changing and that require adaptation from one day to the next. Well, I think this period of crisis really taught us a lot of things. The challenge for our teams in our first 2 hotels was to say, how do we work? How do we stay friendly when we have customers and staff who are wearing masks? We have to serve all of our services in room service. What is the relationship that we can have and create with our customers? And how can we use new digital tools to help us with this experience and support our customers? We learned a lot, but our customers also learned a lot. They learned the meaning of simplicity. Maybe there are really high expectations from a human standpoint. We tend to forget that our professions are service professions, and service is based on human relationships and accompanying our customers. And our customers challenged us. And this winter, the first time we were allowed to take off our masks, it was something that was really strong for our customers and for our staff, because all of a sudden we were finding ourselves with this relationship that seemed even more human than previously, with very strong expectations. Eric, how did you experience that at the BEAUMIER group? Well, just like everyone, there were some moments that were tougher than others. I think what's interesting in what happened during the COVID crisis, and you expressed that very well in your introduction, which is that it helped us accelerate certain things that were really important for our society in the broad sense. To realize that today we need to come back to the essentials. Eating good food, for example, healthy food, and what we're absorbing in our body is good for us. We want to take care of ourselves with sports. The way we live has become important, our lifestyle, and COVID accelerated this. Some of these topics have become priorities for us. And the COVID period was a very constraining period with a lot of restrictions. It was open, then closed, and we had to put masks on and then take them off. It was hard, but just like everyone, we adapted. And what remained from that period for us of COVID, and I think this is something that's quite positive, is, for example, today, when the new technologies were introduced, the way we offered our services to customers, we concentrated our human services more on having exchanges with the customers more than just having procedures. And in hotels, we're not very good on procedures with check-in, check-out. You want to send in an order, it takes 10 minutes. So COVID really forced us to improve our procedures and set up new technologies. And so that, I think, remained as a positive point. And I think now that COVID is behind us, we're going to still have to live with it. It's not completely behind us. We have responsibilities to our customers and to our staff. And today we're still talking about adaptation. Some people still want social distancing, or they want to make sure that the habits will remain, some of the good habits, hygiene habits that we've adopted. So we have to respect the choices of our customers and our staff. So we have less mandatory legal constraints, but on the other hand, either our customers or our staff members still want to keep social distancing, for example. But I think this period was very instructive and constructive for us, and it's led us to a new way of working, and I think we needed to make progress. So in the end, you came out of the procedures to become more human and more fluid. If we talk about this, automatically what comes to my mind is CSR policies. Have you seen that there's an increasing demand from your customers for corporate social responsibility? Would you say that that is a major criteria behind their choice? Truly, do you think it is an important criteria for your customers? Well, someone who comes from the outside to the hotel world, even if it was my case, I worked more in ski resorts, and I worked with a lot of hotel groups in the past, but I was surprised when you arrive, even 3 years ago, when you saw people's corporate social responsibility policy, it always said, our towels plant trees, so we don't wash our towels. That was about it. That was the best thing that they were doing in terms of CSR. So we shouldn't lie to ourselves. We're still in a profession, especially in holiday hotels, and these are holiday locations. It is futility. It's a profession of futility. People don't really need holidays. It's something that they could live without. So accompanying our customers and supporting them with the fact that we are all responsible, and we will be asking ourselves the same questions that they do. And for us, it's really important that we go in this direction of making savings, energy savings, and being more consuming less. We need to be, as they say in French, more sobriety. In many of our hotels, we no longer offer bottles of water, for example. That's easy to say, but some customers in a 4-star hotel are not always happy. If you're used to having your plastic water bottle, there was an actor where we switched to glass bottles that we fill, and so it's filtered water that, yes, we fill in glass bottles now. But that's just one example. We, for energy savings, we work a lot on that, and I think we're not sufficiently supported in that. I like that button that says Save the Planet when you take off your take out your room key, it turns off all the electricity in your room. That's a good thing. These are small details, but we are making progress, and we are working with our staff members. We need to, as Eric was saying, we're in a profession that's got a lot of processes, very structured, with people who have very deep-rooted habits. For example, our room staff, housekeeping staff, have a hard time saying that there will no longer be water bottles in the rooms, for example. So we need to support our staff and look at the composition of the teams. We're not going to use any pompous words. Yes, we want to be a corporation that really takes these elements into account, but it really depends on our teams and their capacity, and I think customers are sensitive to these questions. Now, for the people in the audience who don't know B Corp, that's the highest standard in terms of CSR policy. B Corp is an international label, which is a very heavy label, and it takes a long time to receive the certification. Can you tell us, Eric, about the CSR approach that you started 2 years ago with the BEAUMIER group, and what really struck you during that process? Well, the CSR topic for us is a real pillar of what we're trying to create in our hotel chain. It's pretty broad. You can interpret it in many ways, of corporate social responsibility is a responsibility to the environment, to society. You take care of trees, you take care of each other. So for us, it's one priority, but it's really our way of living, in the choices we make every day, in the way we work with our customers and our teams. It's a real life choice. In the approach that we've had for the past 2 years, but even with Les Hôtels d'en Haut, I've been working in the mountain sector and in hotels for 10 years now. There's something that we are so privileged to be in these locations. We need to take care of the environment. It's a privilege to be in the mountains, to be at the seaside or in Provence, in the Luberon. And this privilege, we must take care of the planet and give back to the planet and take care of others. And so for us, it was always part of our DNA. It's what we do. Sometimes the customer may say, you don't serve this in a certain season. No, we don't serve that product because we think it's out of season. And this vegetable and this fruit is more in season. That's a policy. You don't serve French fries in your hotel in Provence. No, you'll see it's better to eat tomatoes in our hotel in Provence. So some choices shock customers. And I think things are changing fast. People are really beginning to understand what an urgent situation it is. It is an urgent situation. CSR is societal, it's political, so it's no longer a choice to discuss. You have to be active, proactive, really. People say, does it influence our customers? Yes, it does. And does it influence our teams? Yes, certainly, significantly. And our teams are really on the same page. And even our bankers now are moving in that direction. If you want to work with a banker, if you want a bank loan, they're going to ask you, not if you have a CSR plan, they're going to say, can you tell us about your CSR plan? And so it is a real priority. I could give you many examples of what we're trying to create in recent years, and for the future. But beyond just the environment, preserving our natural environment, there's also people in the environment, and that's really important, the people aspect, the well-being of our staff, our customers, our partners, this whole collective group that participates in the hotel chain to live healthily and take care of each other. There's also a dynamic for me that is part of CSR. And today everybody wants to come back to essential things, healthy things that make sense, that have meaning. Even the bankers today are asking us, are you and I think, yes, we're obliged today. What will be the biggest difficulties that you have to overcome when you're implementing this CSR policy in the BEAUMIER group? Well, in general, the biggest obstacle is convincing people and the collective group. You were talking about your housekeeping staff who said they weren't happy about not giving free bottles of water anymore. And there's a real gap between awareness that humanity has, that we need to live differently and do things differently, with who is actually ready to do so. There is a gap. And that's the obstacle I see. The biggest obstacle is that things are moving so fast. Sometimes we impose things, we don't have a choice, and sometimes we have time to convince. People need to change their habits. Changing the habits of a human being is not always easy. So you have to be convinced, you have to have a vision, it has to make sense, it has to have meaning. And that's maybe the hardest thing. Often we think about the financial constraints. You always find financial resources to make things progress. We use new technologies. You can do other things. There are other ways of managing economic pressure. But human beings are probably the slowest, hardest obstacle to overcome. Well, that's very reassuring. We can no longer hide behind that excuse. We're talking about CSR, but there's another huge topic around food and beverages, F&B. Local F&B that's healthy and organic, that's also a huge demand from your customers. But as you said earlier, some types of things don't grow in the Alps, in the mountains. chocolate doesn't grow in the Alps, and people don't find certain things on the menu. And sometimes people may have driven thousands of kilometers to drink certain types of wine or eat certain types of food. How do you reconcile this demand from your high-end clientele, your luxury clientele, with the reality, the local realities linked to CSR and the fact that, yes, chocolate is not grown in the Alps? Well, there are several types of answers. As far as I'm concerned, yes, a slice of tomatoes on the edge of the plate, a slice of tomatoes. Having your chef change his habits, or someone who's preparing that plate, and say, no, in the winter, in a ski resort in Flaine, Val d'Isère, or Les Arcs, you shouldn't be serving tomatoes. We had an experience in Les Arcs with another hotel in the past. I think they did something really strong. It was the Club du Soleil village. They were a chain who decided 4 years ago to take out all tomatoes from. So they have over 500 beds in the village. That was 10 tons of tomatoes that were saved. When I saw the figures, I was amazed. It's impressive. So it's true. You need to support your chef. You need to support the staff. And we all really aspire to this. I think many of us aspire to this, not just Eric and me. We have this ambition to have short circuits, to eat more healthily and locally, and to offer our clientele local products, to show our know-how, our local know-how. In all of our hotels, it's true that when we're in the mountains, cheese is a religion. The cheese is local, and the breeder comes to present their products. We have local bread. So this is the way we approach things. But yes, we can't ignore the fact that pleasure lies in consuming certain products that don't grow and aren't produced in the mountains. So becoming a locavore in hotels is extremely complex. We have flows that are insufficient. In addition, we have a few local market gardeners in the Tarentaise Valley near our ski resorts, but when we ask them, can you supply us with products for the whole season, they say, no, it's not possible. Even for the school cafeterias, they couldn't supply the school cafeterias. They don't have sufficient volume. So we also have to help the local supply chains to develop. Obviously, we still have volumes that mean we are still working with the agro-food industry, but we help this industry through our demands to change. And it's often what is the most powerful. They develop new products, they develop new supply chains that preserve our local producers and regional producers. So those are the levers that we can use all together throughout the whole chain, not just individually by deciding that we're going to no longer serve certain products for breakfast or on the menu. Eric, can you tell us about wine, the topic of wine? Because you have restaurants with several stars in your hotels, and in terms of cash, wine is very important for your business. Yes, but we still have we have a policy, and we try to make sure that the choice, even in our restaurants with stars, we work with local wine growers, either organic or not, and we really try to make sure that they produce their own wine ethically. So this limits the choice, but that's all very well. That's fine. What I think is interesting is when we're talking about food, clearly today we're all doing the same thing, whether we're saying we need to be local with short circuits. And what I think is interesting now is how we should consume food, meat, differently. And that trend is really different. Our customers are demanding this today. Ask my one-star or two-star chef to do a vegetarian menu. He says, Eric, no, I can't do it. I'm telling him, no, the world is changing. We need to do this. 3 years ago, he was saying it's really hard. And now he's the first person who said, of course, it's really important today. People are consuming differently, and they're right to do so. It's a different way to preserve the planet. So I think this approach is really relevant today in our restaurants and our hotels. As you said, people still want to preserve the pleasure, but the way they're going to get that pleasure has evolved. We're no longer there to stuff our face. Today, people really want to taste the food and the beverages in a different way, even in the luxury hotels.
So enjoying while doing oneself good, yeah. And not just eating a rich meal and drinking a lot. Yeah, absolutely that. By analogy, we talk about hotels in urban areas with very contactless, cashless approaches. Do you think that we'll see this in the high-end hotels in the mountains, this type of approach? For us, as I said earlier, we've worked on certain observations. The hostels and small hotels which have been developed in some resorts, and not always successfully because it's complicated. When you're not called the UCPA, getting people to sleep in a dormitory can be a bit complicated. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have the very high-end hotels, luxury hotels that are very attentive to customers and their needs, and they maintain their margins. We think that we're at the heart of this offer, and that we can develop products that ally simplicity We call this the hospitality industry, and there's a reason for that. This is a human relationship. I have been lucky enough to travel to lots of resorts in the world, not as many as you, but nevertheless, quite a few. And I've seen lots of products, including in the mountains, with this trend that no one's at the reception, that the relationship becomes anonymous, and that's not how I want to work. And I don't think that our customers want that from us either in these emblematic places. When I worked in the lifts, we learned to make extraordinary areas available to our customers. And this is also true for the hotels. We open the door onto an extraordinary place. This isn't true for residences, for apartments. Hotels have to preserve this, preserve the quality of the welcome. And the opening onto these emblematic places at the seaside, near the mountains, with a powerful environment, but that requires learning. If for your customers you don't accelerate this learning and you don't open these doors, if you're not making the right experience available to the customers, then they won't be happy. Do you agree with this, Eric? Yes. You have to think about how you want to use these new technologies to make sure that they provide a real added value. Often in the hotel business, we want to have the new technologies. And some industries don't give you a choice. In the aviation industry, that's absolutely mandatory, for instance. Sometimes we're a bit slow in the hotels to apply these things. Okay, our customers don't want to line up. They don't want to spend hours giving their credit cards when they get to the reception. They say, make my life easier, and new technologies can do this. Having said that, our customers want a human contact with the teams. They want to be able to ask questions. They want to be able to talk to the chef, to the receptionist, to the concierge. So this human relationship is part of being on holidays. It's important. And what's new with these technologies is that we can spend less time in procedures and spend more time with the customer. So it's essential that we live with it, but we have to learn to be quicker. The other challenge that we have are multi-generational guests. It's international. The customs from one country are different from another. The way people use things are different. In COVID, we had code bars for the menus. And some of our customers didn't want to do that. They said they want a piece of paper, or I'll talk to the chef. Even when you give them a new technology, they didn't want to use it. I don't want to appear to be against technology because that's not who I am. Fluidity is important, and new technologies such as Lounge Up and communication tools are very fluid with our customers and our partners in the resorts, and we learn to use them during lockdown. We work with our partners at the lifts and in the resort management. So the customer can get their lift pass at the reception on their phone in a very fluid and quick manner. Those are real topics that allow us to focus on good times with the family or friends rather than standing in the reception area waiting to get their lift pass. So technology that makes sense and not just gadgets to say in luxury hotels we're just adding gadgets. We saw in the tourism industry in general, including last summer, that there were real difficulties in recruiting staff. And this is true in restaurants and for accommodation. So there's recruitment, but there's also creating employee loyalty. We talked about this at lunch. We have sometimes staff who leave halfway through the season to go to another hotel. So how do you deal with this? In a context where demands from customers are sometimes more complex, and so how do you deal with this at BEAUMIER and at Friendly Hotel Collection to attract talent and then keep them? How much time do you have? Well, we've got 13 minutes left. Firstly, in our industry, we've had an awakening. The last 30, 20, 10 years, we haven't been taking care of our employees. We were not paying people properly. The hours were too long. Lots of personal sacrifices were asked of our employees. And at a certain time, 20 years later, you say, well, there aren't people who want to work in our industry. You shouldn't be surprised. We have to wake up to that. In this same context, what does this mean for us today? We each have a role to give people the desire to work in our industry. There are things that seem obvious today. The world is changing, people are changing, and we must change in our industry also. There are answers that we won't get immediately. It's going to be a bit complicated for some time, a year, 2 years, 3 years. Each season we're saying we're missing 10% of our staff. So firstly, how do we attract people to our industry, which is a great industry? We're working in magical places, we're working in teams. The hotel business involves a lot of different things. We do design, marketing, human resources, finance if we want. We provide services. So the hotel industry is really quite vast, and you can really have a lot of fun. And the last thing to get people to come back is to give meaning. We see it with our young people. What's your project? Does it have meaning? Do I fit with your values? Are you going to take care of me? If you take care of me, I'll take care of you and your customers. Today, people need not just a job to earn a wage. We feel that there is a real change amongst young people especially. So we need to reconsider the way that we take care of them. You talked about essentials, training, how people grow with our companies. How can they have a work-life balance when you're open 7 days a week all year round? So how can we allow our teams to enjoy life as much as our customers do? So as entrepreneurs, we need to take care of our teams. We're in an industry where we have to challenge ourselves now. I was a waiter in my early career, and so I know what it is, what it involves. And what I found great in our industry is generosity, teamwork. We travel throughout the world. We meet lots of people. We learn lots of things. Our industry is really a great one, but we need to put things in the right order. We have to work for the next few years to get things in order, and we need to take care of our teams. I'm not going to add much because your answer was very complete, and I really agree with your analysis. In a very prosaic way, we can say it's a symmetry of attention. Taking care of customers means that you have to take care of your employees, too. And we have a terrible reputation, particularly in the mountains, where it's difficult to house staff, where it's difficult to allow people to live there for years. Going beyond a season is complicated, and if we want loyal staff, we have to give them a comfortable life, too. We have to give them meaning. People want to join us for long periods in the mountains, but it's complicated to live, to find decent housing. So we have to work on that. And we have to also give more value to the professions. Yesterday I was with our teams. We had a small end-of-season seminar. And I was talking about our governesses. They're so proud of what they do, and they have so much knowledge. I think of the governesses, and there's some reality TV shows. People are more interested in working in the kitchen, becoming chefs. It's become something important and glamorous. There's a Swiss program on the hotel industry that works well when we show the best, and they fight in the hospitality industry. So we need to create more enchantment in our professions. We have to reimagine the way that we sell these careers to potential employees. I have in mind a small group that, since the beginning, created a training center because they couldn't hire staff. And now they're really benefiting from it. People come back. It doesn't matter if they go and live and experience abroad. I'm thinking about chefs. It's often complicated to keep them, but if a chef has the possibility at 30 years or 35 years of age to open their business, and maybe they'll come back later because they didn't enjoy being an entrepreneur, but helping them, staying in contact, allowing them to develop, and creating great teams. It won't take 2 years. It's a real investment. We need to work on this together to create the right conditions for the future.
Puisqu'il nous reste quelques minutes pour conclure.
We have a few minutes to conclude. How do you see the future of the hotel industry in the mountains? It's difficult to answer. People will always want to go on holidays, will want to have fun, will want to enjoy themselves. And I think that the hospitality industry, holiday industry, will be lasting and sustainable. Our regions have so much to offer. We'll always have the advantage of the fact that people want to come to France on holidays. And I think this will last. People will consume differently. That's for certain. Today, in the different manners of consumption, some things might become more important. We need to pollute less. We need to take care of our environment. People are looking for healthy things today. Nature, sports, well-being. They want to feel good. They want to ensure that they're not damaging the world around them. And this is going to be a growing issue in coming years. For trends, the hospitality industry is one of the oldest service industries. That's true. And we have to give the good feeling back to this industry. We have to live up to our reputation. We see that in the coming years, the hybridization of time is going to be important. People are going on holidays, but taking computers and our phones and doing a bit of work. You might have a video conference in the middle of the day, but you're mixing it up. You see that co-working is really important. Some of our customers come on holidays and they take a morning of work, and it's up to us to ensure that they can do their morning's work in the right conditions. That's a big trend. There are others. We need to adapt our products accordingly. Laurent Vanna said this morning, he talked about the appeal of new technologies. And it can sometimes take everything into account, but we need to think about our future consumers who are children today, who spend a lot of time on their smartphones and who make choices. They spend a lot of digital recreation time. Is this a question that I ask myself? Do we want to bring them back to reality, to enjoy themselves in the absolutely fabulous places that they can live in the mountains and the natural spaces? Or do we let them spend their holidays in the metaverse? And that's not a very nice thing I'm saying, I think, but this is a real question. Let's continue to listen to our customers, because these are very, very important aspects. Always the middle road. Thank you, Eric Dardé from BEAUMIER and Laurent Chelle from Friendly Hotel Collection, for participating in this discussion. We've got a few minutes. Are there any questions? So there's a microphone that can be handed around if you have a question. No questions? Fine then. Thank you for being so attentive. And we have a 15-minute pitch now. Thank you.